So I have a couple tricks I wanted to show you, and then we'll leave it open again for a little Q&A at the end. Um, one of these is something I kind of forgot about actually, and it's being able to use a property as a dimension. So let me get to my database and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so for example, let's say you're on the customer dimension. I'm going to switch this to total so it's not so busy. There we go. And let's say you wanted to filter by something that's a property that you don't have as a dimension. So for example, this one is address. You don't have address and you don't have credit limit as dimensions, but you really want to search by those and filter by those properties. So what you can do instead is click on the properties drop down and select address and nothing else. And then you can, I don't like this one because it doesn't have the state. Let me see actually if I can switch to, this one's better. Okay, I'm going to use this one instead. So this is my other demo site in the Eclipse console. So instead, let's say you wanted to search by customers shipped to, but by state. You can select state and only state, because we don't have state as a dimension. So instead of having to add it as a dimension, now I only want to choose California and Washington. So I'm going to highlight those and click focus. And now, of course, I don't see who those customers are, but now I can go back in and add them. So now it's only those customers. So again, it's using a property to filter as it would be like a dimension. So that is one of my favorite ones that I always forget to tell people about, but I think it's so helpful. So you can search that way. And then the other one that came up, actually, I was going to teach you guys this and I couldn't figure out a really good example, but it's so cool that I wanted to make sure I showed you. So at the conference this week at Encounter, I helped one of my customers by using this. So I'm going to use their example, but because I don't have the same data in here, you'll have to just use your imagination because I can't use their site, of course. But they are actually, yes, we can, I think. Yes, we can. Okay. So, oh man, I'm failing. Okay. So if this had data in it, their question was, can we have a new measure that is total freight? Because in the order header database, they have all these different freight options. And instead of having to select each one of them, they wanted to select just total freight. So what you can do instead, and let me see if I can get some old data in there, if there's any data. It's so funny how bad our demo sites are sometimes. Let's see if there's data in 2021. There, that's better. Okay. So instead of having just columns for every single one, there's an option for custom property. So it's a little bit of a clunky workaround, but it'll get you what you need if you don't have access to Designer, or if you don't want to pay to have that addition added to your site. So custom property allows you to add a new property based on you have to do a measure, and you can do an expression. So you can add all these different things together, or you can do math kind of like you do in custom mode. So we're going to call this total freight. The expression I want is going to be A plus B plus C plus D, because I'm going to add all four of those freights together. So it's very simple. You just add all these different A, B, C, D. And then now we're going to add our A. See, it pops up there. Our B, C, and D. So then you have all of your variables here. And now you have to tell each one what it needs to be. So for A, it needs to be freight billed in. I'm going to do a time period of 2021. I'm going to keep it just because of the data in here. But then you can also do the time period if you want to change it. You can do B, that's going to be the next freight. C, and B. So now it's going to add all of these together. So now when I click on the ship to dimension, I'm going to have, get rid of that. I'm going to have the option down here for total freight now. So I can click on that, and now it's a property of the ship to dimension. It's telling me my total freight by customer ship to. So because it's a property, it'll function differently than a measure. So just keep that in mind. But this was sufficient for them. They were able to get exactly what they needed to see as a property. And if we switch to the bill to dimension, remember properties depend on what dimension you're on. So if we choose a different dimension, it doesn't exist there because we only made it for the ship to dimension. So once you've made it, it'll be there and you don't have to worry about making it again, but you do have to do it by dimension. And then one last thing I'll add is that this is all user specific. So every user will have to go in and make their own custom property, but it is an option if you needed something like total freight or whatever you want it to be, as long as you have all of the ingredients there. Okay, and then I wanted to show you a few of the features in the charts also, because we didn't talk about charts a whole lot last time. So under the charts button, you have all of these different options. If you wanted to go to, let's do a column, and we're looking at every single customer for the rolling 12-month time period. So that only gives us, it doesn't give us every customer because there's a lot of customers and this is really busy. There's a lot going on, but you still want to see the totals or whatever you want it to be. You can actually change this to be, maybe it's only on our chart. Thought I had that, never mind. It's on a different one. I was going to show you the show as total or use total. So I'll go with the other one I was going to make anyway, and then we'll go back to that. So here's for the line chart. There's all this dead space under here. So a nice thing about these is that you can do the auto axis scale and then it'll automatically make it so that you don't have all of that wasted space. They've also added a few things like the show full label name, which will be, let's go to customer, sales rep, product, period. There we go. That's what I was trying to do in the first place. So here we go. This is super busy. So we don't want to show the full label name, but also we want to use total. So if we use the total, then it's just showing you the total of all of the products or the total of all of the customers. So my issue is that I was using total mode, which is I haven't had enough coffee yet because that's a duh moment. Of course, you can't use total mode and then show the total. So if you're in period mode or something else, then you can use the total of all the customers. And so then you still have your rolling 12 months and you're showing every customer within each single month. So use total, that'll show up under period mode. And then, yeah, the show full label name. If we do this, let's only do a couple customers. There we go. And then, so see all that, how busy that is. That's what it's showing in the legend when they show the full name. So if you uncheck that, it looks a little bit easier to read. And then, of course, you can do show data labels. That's something that was new that I really like because then it shows you the numbers also. We had a lot of requests for this in charts and they finally added it. So that's really handy because then you can see what the actual number is. Sometimes it's hard to tell just with the numbers on the side here. And then, of course, you can do trend line. So those are a few things on the bar and column charts. Let's reset real quick. the gauge summary, ring summary, and bullet charts. So the bullet chart is really cool. If you haven't used that yet in variance mode, I'm actually going to do year to date. So if we do year to date and a variance, we can use this bullet chart. And I'm going to use total again because there's too many. But then we can see the current and the previous. So the previous is in the gray and the current is in the blue. And then you can also make the ranges here. So if you want red to be, that variance is anything from a -15 to 0, yellow is maybe 0 to 15, and green is 15 to 200 or something like that. And then it'll change based on what you've set as your ranges. So that's the bullet chart. You can also do a gauge in variance mode, which is nice. And then you just set your ranges. There's something funky with this where if we were to put yellow as 1 instead of 0, it gives you a little gap. There we go. Let's do 10. Changes to 25. So it gives you this little gap right here. So you want to set yellow. If red ends at 0, you want to set yellow to begin at 0, and then that closes the gap there. So you can put your gauge different colors here, whatever ranges make sense to you. So you'll set your full range, so -15 to 25, and then set your color ranges. And notice that it says count. It always defaults with all of your KPI charts. So that's gauge, bullet summary, and ring summary. It always defaults to count. So when you have a variance mode in place, it'll also give you the options for variance and percent variance. So I'm going to do percent, and then it gives you that percent variance, and then these numbers make more sense now. You can also click this box to show current and previous. So that's kind of nice because then you can show what the actual numbers are and why you're up 16%. And also something else actually that just before this webinar I worked on with a customer, he said, I don't really care about yellow. I want it to be either red or green. Like it's either there or it's not. Let's get rid of the yellow. So you can get rid of the yellow. We can do 0 here and then do green 0 here. So then it's just red or green. And then another trick on these, we only have 3 colors. We have red, yellow, and green, as you see, but we can do a trick. So we did this with quarters. And someone else did it with the 4 different colors, and you can trick it. You can trick the system a little bit. So we can do red is 0 or is -15 to, let's do -5. And then yellow would be 0 to 10 and then 10. So if you have these numbers set and there's a range that falls outside of these numbers that you didn't specify, it'll turn it gray. So you can have 4 different colors, but you have to kind of work the system a little bit and just put some numbers in there that don't equal any of these, and it'll show up gray. And then one last thing on charts, the bubble chart. This is pretty cool for if you have the procurement database, or if you have sales, inventory, and purchasing all together in one. You can do, if we're looking at, let's do by product, maybe, or now let's do customer. You can add in different measures. So if you do more than one measure, let's do value, cost, and profit, all 3 of those. So if you have 3 measures or 2 or more measures, you can use the bubble chart. And this is where you can go by customer. You can say, okay, we're going to have value be the X, Y be the cost, and then the radius is going to be the profit. So you can set your different measures, and then the bubbles are based on those measures. So if we click on this giant bubble all the way up and to the right, it's showing you the value. So there's sales dollars for year to date. It's showing you the cost year to date, and then it's showing your profit year to date. So then you can change these around. And if you wanted the radius to be sales dollars or value instead, then you have that ability to change that around. like that. I know this one's really underused, I think. So it's a pretty cool one to have a quick glance. And then you can look at your customers maybe down here and click on it and see, okay, they're the profit. We want the profit to be on the X. And I'm showing the profit's not very good. It's 40,000. Whereas this customer here, the profit is 119,000, or however you want to set it. You can also do, of course, the margin instead of profit, which then it'll throw off the numbers a little bit, or the bubbles a little bit where they sit, because you want to have the numbers kind of the same. So if you're looking at a percentage versus a dollar amount, it might not work as well. It's not as clean, but